And with that, I want to welcome Will Greenblatt. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing well. Yeah. As I was saying, it's a weird time for everyone, but I feel like I'm doing very well under the circumstances compared to a lot of people, and I think the nature of my work still allows me to socialize with people, albeit in this virtual way, but I still find myself getting the benefit of the sort of work that I do, which is connecting with people. And so when I get a little lonely in the apartment with just my wife and my dog, I'm able to connect with people like you and everybody who's here today. So, I'm very grateful for that. And I thank everybody who's taken the time to be here today. And I'm going to provide as much value as I can, especially in terms of storytelling and pitching, because we're going through the storytelling part of my powerful pitch series.
And I think it's really important, especially now that we continue to connect with as many people as possible to feel that. Like both you and I participated in the Queen's Hackathon this weekend. How
Yeah.
was your part of the pitching part? You know, you did a big presentation in the
Yeah.
Saturday evening.
Yeah, so I mean, what's really inspiring about that is that was a volunteer thing. I mean, obviously there's a cash prize, but only one team could win it. So there's obviously a high chance that not everybody could. But these are 18 years old, 19 years old, 20-year-old kids who are taking time out of whatever they could be doing on the internet or whatever they could be doing at home and working for about 48 to 72 hours. I'm not quite sure how long the whole thing was, working on their pitch, working on their business ideas, putting their own ideas out there, putting themselves out there to pitch and receive feedback from some pretty, strong, not critics, but people who have, who aren't going to let them get off easy with saying nonsense or saying things that weren't supported.
It's
And they
okay to
did
call
that, and
me a
they were
critic.
amazingly open. And so I was really inspired by that. And I would say that, if we could all find our version of that, it would be really, really exciting, which is just to like get together an MVP, get together a basic pitch, hone in on your story, and then put it out there and let the market tell you how they think of it. And so I would say for anybody here who's resisting putting themselves out on social media or, pitching until they feel like they've got their product or their pitch absolutely right, that's backwards thinking. Just get out there and do it.
Absolutely, and those types of events are happening more and more now virtually, and they have their awkward moments, but in generally they're great. And I mean, they have their
Yeah.
awkward moments because we're still trying to figure out how to transition from this point to that point electronically and get everybody from 10 rooms to one room and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And it just takes a little longer. But the thought of doing this a few years ago was just not really happening. And the fact that you can actually emote and teach people how to pitch properly through the camera and get them to emote and tell their story properly is amazing.
Yeah. And I would say that most of what I teach, other than like some basic stage presence stuff and maybe some volume and the size of being on a big stage, is actually more important virtually, because we can't get a sense of your whole body language. We can't get a sense of sort of the micro movements on your face as well as we could before face to face. Simple things like breathing or directional energy, the way you face somebody, or, the difference between kind of leaning forward like this and leaning back like that. All that stuff we are so attuned to when we're in person. So now you kind of have to almost project it through this thing. You have to work even harder to reach through the screen and get to people. I think now is the time to take communication more seriously than ever, because you don't have the benefit of in-person, all the benefits of being in person versus this.
Well, let's get started because
Great.
I've chewed up a lot of your time.
Sure. Yeah. I'll launch into this, and I want to make it clear to everybody that if you have a question, and it is going to be interactive as well, but if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. And Craig, if you can see that, and just let me know if somebody has a
Yep.
question, because I'm going to try to get through a lot of content as clearly but as quickly as I can. But if there are questions, if you feel I haven't explained something, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll get to it as soon as I can.
Yeah, and don't be shy about the questions. You get
Yeah,
in, get
please.
out what you put in. So
Absolutely. So can everybody see this? My full screen, is that
looks good. Yep.
Fantastic. So this is a reminder to everybody that this is part of a series, and this is part 2 or act 2, as we say. And the series is the Powerful Pitch series, which is based on 5 key steps or 5 key acts that I teach. Awareness is the number 1, and I'll do a very quick recap of what we covered last time. And step 2 is articulation. So articulation is basically what to say and how to say it, and that's what we're going to cover today. And the next 3 I can kind of preview a little later on if anybody's interested. But that's what we're going to cover today. So articulation is what to say and how to say it. And then we need a bit of a review from Act 1, awareness. So this is where we always start, evolutionary psychology. The more you understand about evolutionary and behavioral psychology, the better you will be able to pitch or to tell stories or to give a sales conversation or to have any kind of podcast or content creation with another person. Anytime you are telling your story and hearing another person's, evolutionary and behavioral psychology is at play. Things like stories, why we're all so obsessed with stories. Things like body language and nonverbal communication. Why is that such a big deal to us? Why are some people great speakers and others you can barely listen to for more than 30 seconds? A lot of these questions have their answers in evolutionary psychology. So we always kind of start here and go why communication is so essential to our species, because it helped us cooperate and collaborate. And now we're in these big cities, but a lot of these instincts and a lot of these feelings between one another are still at play, like we used to live in tribes of 150. So reading more about this, and I have some books that I'll recommend, is really, really key to understanding a lot of my work. The speech settings, which I covered. These are the technical elements of your speech that you can measure and adjust to improve your technical speaking, the way you make people understand and care. So we have volume, and everything has a max of 10 or a minimum of 0. And the important thing is to film yourself, watch it back, and then see where your speech settings are. Don't assume you know where they are, because you don't necessarily know. So film yourself or record yourself on Zoom during a meeting, watch back and use this document. And I'll send everybody this slide deck, everybody who's here today, and use these speech settings as a way to judge your own performance and judge in a non-critical way. It's just about numbers, right? So instead of, oh, I'm obnoxious, just be like, oh, my volume is a little high, I can just bring it down. Or instead of, I'm a mumbler, you just say, oh, my clarity is a little low. It's at a 2. I can maybe put it up to a 6 and see what happens, right? It takes it out of the sort of, self-flagellation of I suck, I'm no good, to, oh, I actually can improve in some very concrete, practical ways. Mindfulness. I cannot stress this enough. Mindfulness meditation, mindfulness practice. You don't just have to do it by meditating. There's mindfulness practices where you can do it while washing the dishes, just paying attention to the sensations of the water and the sounds. Mindfulness teeth brushing, making sure you're focused on brushing your teeth for the whole 120 seconds or whatever that you're doing, where you can feel the sensations and listen to the sound and not plan your day out or who you have to email. Mindfulness is key to good public speaking. I cannot stress this enough, and I covered this in the last one, but there's loads of great resources for mindfulness meditation and mindfulness learning online. Just Google it. And of course, here we have the warm-up. This is so important. I'm going to do a very mini one with you guys now because it's always good. So the OutLoud maxim is always warm up before you speak. So I can't see anyone, but I will ask everybody to stand up out of your chair and find a nice, comfortable standing position on the floor, and I'll take you through a very quick OutLoud warm-up. And of course, the reason we do this is to optimize performance. The same reason actors warm up or singers warm up or athletes warm up. So the first step is find yourself a nice stance on the ground and just pay attention to the way your feet are connected with the ground, and take a nice deep breath in. And this is part of mindfulness. So look in your mind's eye at your feet. How do they feel? Are you wearing socks or shoes, or are you barefoot? Is the ground cold or hot? Do you feel like you're swaying a lot, or do you have a nice steady grip, let's say, on the floor? How do your ankles and knees feel? How do your hips feel? Kind of move your gaze up through your legs and see if you can identify any tension or tightness or any sensation in general, and just notice it. This is starting to improve your mindfulness. And as we're doing this, we're breathing deep into our belly. And now you can open your eyes and place one hand on your chest, just underneath your collarbone, and another hand on your belly button. So if I'll show you my camera here, so another hand right on your belly button down here. And the reason for this is we're going to do a quick test. You're going to take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And think to yourself, which hand, your top hand or your bottom hand, moves more when you're taking this deep breath in? You can try again and see again. If the answer is your bottom hand, then full marks, top score for you. That is what you should be doing for public speaking, because breathing up here, if we go and breathe into your chest and breathe, it creates tension in your neck and in your jaw. And it actually doesn't allow your lungs to fill up because the meat of your lungs is down here. So if you breathe out to your belly, your diaphragm can actually go down. Your abdomen goes out, your diaphragm can lower, and the bottom of your lungs can kind of fill up downwards, which is actually how they want to expand. And it's so good for your nerves too. Really good for so many reasons. So put both hands on your belly and breathe into your belly. And out, and your belly button should go back to your spine. This is how you breathe with power, so you can have a nice resonant voice. Next up, we're gonna do breathe in, same way, into the belly. And on the out breath, you're going to go, So good for your voice. So good to start to wake up your resonator muscles in your face and your chest. Just like a violin doesn't sound good if it's not maintained or taken care of or oiled properly. Same thing with your voice. You need to oil it, lubricate it, so to speak. And so this is part of the way to do that. One more time, breathe into your belly. And on the out breath. And you hear all the range that we're starting to find there. Last one we're going to do is tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are going to warm up our articulator muscles. And we are going to say first, unique New York. Everybody repeat.
Unique New York.
Good. Even louder, more resonant, and sharper with the consonants, because we want to over-exaggerate. It's like working out with, weighted ankles or swimming with clothes on to create drag. You're kind of over-exerting yourself so that when you speak normally, you're that much stronger. So, unique New York.
Unique New York.
Good. Next one is red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Good. Even more. Red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Good. 3 times fast, you repeat. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
Yes, Craig, you are an old veteran of me doing this, so you've nailed it. And last one, we're going to do this, and we're going to make our face nice and big, and we're going to say, how now, brown cow?
How now, brown cow?
Good. Breathe into the belly. And even louder and bigger. How now, brown cow?
I forgot to warn my roommate that we were working with you today.
Yeah.
How now, brown cow?
Beautiful. And the last thing to do is blow the roof off. Do not worry. If somebody's sleeping, maybe you can take a little bit off it. But don't worry about sounding foolish. If you can not worry about sounding foolish, then you'll never be nervous again, right? So breathe in. How now, brown cow?
How now, brown cow?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. Everybody should feel a lot more alive, ready to go, and that's the kind of space you want to be in when you're giving any kind of talk, pitch, video, content creation, even a video brief to your team, anything that you're doing. You should do this right before, and you can do it every day as a daily exercise to become more powerful and clear and present when you speak. So any questions? Oh yeah, and the last one is to be a professional human. So start to study people. Notice who's a good speaker. Use the speech settings that I'm going to give you and see where's their volume at, where's their pitch at, where's their pace at. Are they doing all these things that we're talking about here today? And if they're a good speaker, why and why not? And the more you study people, the better you will be at being a speaker yourself. So I'm just going to look at the chat.
It's
yes,
just me.
Just you. Okay, fantastic. So let's get into the articulation for today. Sorry, I'm just trying to find, here we go. Yes, I'm just trying to get rid of this thing here. Can you still see my screen? Is this all good?
I can still see your screen.
Great. So why story? Why is story so important to weave into your pitch, into your marketing materials, into just every conversation that you have about your company? Well, it all goes back to evolutionary psychology, as I said, and this is a brilliant book to understand how story affects human beings. It's evolutionary psychology looking at what is sometimes called the literary Darwinism movement, but basically the idea that story is part of our DNA, because tribes that could tell good stories about where the food was, where the predators were, they remembered the information as a group. They were able to disseminate the information and create an emotional response when they were sharing information. Therefore, they were more likely to remember the life or death information, and they would survive. And the tribes that didn't, they died out. So now we are all the descendants of the storytelling animal. And basically the formula that I usually say is that stories create emotion. Emotion creates memory in the brain. If you are emotional about something, you are more likely to remember it. And of course, if you remember it, it's more likely to have an impact on you, causing you to actually do something, clicking on the video, sharing the video, following the link to the website, signing up for the website, whatever your call to action is, you will be, and there's a lot of studies that back this up. Storytelling and emotional storytelling create conversions. People whose emotions are up will convert, and the best way to create emotions is to tell a story. So this is where we all come from. We are all the evolved storytelling animal. Now, does anybody know who this is? Write it in the chat if you know who this guy's name is, or feel free to take yourself off mute and say it out loud.
We have to enable it, but it's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's right. Astrophysicist, not the sexiest of professions, but this guy is on TV all the time. Why? Jack Ma. Is Alibaba the most brilliant business idea that anybody ever came up with? No, it's just eBay. It's just, he just copied this whole idea. Why is this guy so rich and famous? Oprah. Is she the best? I don't know what her space is. I guess, you know, mental and spiritual health, essentially. Is she the most knowledgeable about that in the world? You know, relationships? Does she have a 3 PhDs? Not necessarily, right? Jamie Oliver, is he the best cook in the world? Almost certainly not. Not even close to it, right? Why are these people so successful? They're storytellers. At OutLoud, we always say success follows the storytellers. If what you do, you are the best at, nobody will ever hear of you unless you have a compelling story about who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Now, it doesn't mean that you can have a shitty idea that nobody cares about and become super famous. It also doesn't mean that if you're not the best public speaker in the world or the best storyteller, that you also can't be successful. But it is so much easier to get people's attention and create a response from them if you can become a storyteller. And the good news is that everybody can learn how to be a better storyteller. I've worked with technical web analysts and you know, scientists, graduate scientist students, and they've ended up completely coming out of their shells and finding themselves through this process because I've been able to convince them that it's so important not just to be a great scientist or researcher or technician or practitioner, but a storyteller as well. Better things will happen to you if you can convince other people of your story. So what is story? Why, like, how can we start to tell a story? It's all very, you know, well to say tell a story, but how do we do that? Well, I always teach this, and this is the hero's journey. Does anybody know what the hero's journey is? Maybe you can put your hand up or just say me if you've heard of this before, or no, yes or no if you've heard of it. I'm just going to check in on the chat to see people's responses.
Yeah, Laurette.
What are we doing here? Nope. Nope.
Nope.
Neil. Oh, yes. Graham wrote Neil,
Yeah.
and as did Lynette. Yes, that's right. Okay, we have a couple no's and a couple yeps. Sandra said yep. So the hero's journey comes from Joseph Campbell in the book, I believe it was called The Hero of a Thousand Faces. And he identified what's called the monomyth, meaning that there's one kind of arc of the hero from every major story and every major myth from around the world. It all kind of follows the same character arc. And there are some amazing people who are actually charting people's lives this way too. There's this great school in Texas that teaches kids how to create their own hero's journey. It's really, really cool. But there's a very predictable arc that the hero's journey follows. And this is, you know, Frodo from Lord of the Rings. This is Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games. This is Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. This is, you know, there's countless examples in our popular culture. And then that means that it's a really powerful storytelling template as well, because there's something innate to our human condition that enjoys this story, but there's also, it's reinforced by our culture. So there's a very powerful storytelling template. it starts like this, and I'm not going to go through it all today because we actually have a more simplified version, but I really do recommend taking some time. There's a great TEDx video on this, which takes you through each step and what they are and kind of shows you them to some famous stories that you'll probably be familiar with. I can post a link to that later, Craig, but, or maybe Craig, you can find it now. It's TEDx, you know,
I'm
what
looking
is a
for
hero?
it. Yeah.
Great. So basically it starts with an ordinary world. You can see this circle is split into two halves, ordinary world and special world. So basically what happens is in the ordinary world, we see a hero and they're living their life. Maybe their life is good, maybe not so much, but it's ordinary, right? Then there's a call to adventure. They get a chance to go do something. And then usually they refuse it right away. Then they meet some mentor like Gandalf. And then they say, okay, I'm going to do it because I have some help. And okay, let's do it. Screw it. They cross the threshold, which means going out of their hometown or out of their ordinary world. And they venture to the special world. Then we have what's called tests, allies, and enemies. All the shit that happens, all the fights, all the chases, all the new friends they make, all the, you know, enemies that we meet throughout the film. That's the bulk of the act 2 of the movie structure. That's this number 6, test, allies, and enemies. Then they approach the cave where the treasure is. Then they have the ordeal, which is the climax. Then they have the reward, which is seizing the sword. So they conquer their enemy. And then they head back because the important thing is you have to go back home. And then eventually, number 12, they come home with the elixir. They return with the elixir. The elixir is the magic prize that they gained from their journey. It can be metaphorical, like they became a stronger, more courageous person, or it can be a literal magic potion that saves their village. It can be anything like that. And it works really well in the 3-act structure. And the reason I talk about the 3-act structure is it's very easy to follow as a content creator or a pitch writer. And it's something you can plug all of your stories into, this 3-act structure. So it's basically ordinary world, the call to adventure, and then they do the thing, the test, allies, and enemies, they get the prize, and then they come home and their life is better than ever. So you can, and what we say it out loud too, is that you shouldn't feel bad for using a formula. Most people think formula means that they're selling out or they're being lazy or they're not being original. But formula equals freedom. It frees you up from having to think, how can I structure this talk? How can I structure my video that I want to put out on YouTube? How can I structure my pitch? Having 3 anchor points is really, really useful. And let's look at those. So this is what I call the 3-part story. And you can use this for everything. You can use it for a blog post. You can use it for a video blog post. You can use it for your pitch. You can use it for any other piece of content that you can think about creating when you're telling a story. Does anybody have any questions about that so far before I launch into this? Is this all making sense? Yeah?
No questions so far.
Because I know I'm going quickly, so I don't want to just railroad over everybody.
All good. This is
Anything
amazing. Great? All good. We're getting a bunch.
Okay, fantastic. Ordinary world and call to adventure. This is part 1. Also known as status quo. In some marketers, they'll talk about the status quo. You're basically painting the picture of an ordinary world for either you. Let's say you're telling a story about you, then you would say, this is what I used to do. And we'll look at this a little later. Or you're painting the picture for your customers or for the potential customers for your product if you're still in fundraising stage. What is their life like? And the clearer you can do this, the more reaction you get from your target market and even investors. I worked with one founder once who said, I don't need to tell a story to my investors. They just want to know about the money. Like, is it going to make money? It's like, well, it won't make money if nobody is compelled to listen to your story and buy your product. So it doesn't matter how good the idea is if you can't tell the story in a way that's going to generate interest, attract customers, build your business, then there is no return on investment, right? So painting this picture is so important. And also think about who you're talking about. And it's usually your customer and their problems and their pain points, which we'll talk about in a second as well. But not just, oh, they go to work every day and now here's this product that I'm giving them. No, what is wrong with their lives? What is going wrong? What is a problem that needs to be solved? And again, if you don't have a problem, then you have what they call a nice to have business rather than a need to have product or service, right? If you have a need to have, like an Advil, they also talk about painkillers versus vitamins, right? Nobody gets up in the middle of the night to go to the store and get a bottle of vitamin C, but you will go for an Advil to stop your headache. So that's step 1, identifying the ordinary world and the problems and the pain points. Step 2, your solutions. How do you solve the pain points? Exactly how do you do it? What's the method? What's the how-to? What's the way in which you solve it? And that's kind of the bulk of the pitch or the content creation or the advertisement, is like, this is exactly what I'm going to do for you. And then number 3 is the elixir, the amazing future outcome, or what at Dent they call the prize, which is what all your customers want, or what anybody reading your blog wants, or what anybody watching your videos wants, or what any investor who is following your pitch wants, the prize. With investors, it's easy. They want 10 times return on their investment. With a customer, it's also easy, but it's a little more abstract depending on your market. It's they want their problems solved. So if you know the problems, and of course, this goes without saying, if you don't know the problems, you have to do the research. So if you haven't gotten out there and talked to your customers and really identified that this is a problem in the market and a problem that you can demonstrate that people are willing to pay for, then keep doing that customer development and keep asking those questions. And don't be afraid to let it change as well as you get feedback from the market. And yeah, the elixir, the amazing future outcome. So that is the end of their story. But remember, with the elixir, they don't end up with the elixir in the special world, in the new place. They always come home. So the idea is you don't want to change anyone's life in general, depending on your product. You don't want to make them stop doing the things they like to do. You want to make them do what they want to do better. You want them to, if they like spending time with their kids, you want to give them more time to spend with their kids. If they like going out for a walk, you want them to be able to do it without back pain. If you know what I mean, the whole point is that their lives will be the same, but better than ever before. So that's usually the best type of story, is here's their life. This is Deborah going to work, but she can never find her keys. Well, we've come up with a new solution where you can press a button on your phone and your keys beep wherever they are in the house. We use our patented, drone F37 series technology to map out the AI algorithm of the blah, 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 whatever in the house. Those are the methods. That's step 2. Now, Deborah can find her keys every time she leaves. She always knows where they are, and she's happier. She has more time, less stress. Life is better, right? So it's still leaving for work with the keys, but we've brought it back. And the circle, coming back full circle, is a really psychologically satisfying thing to listen to. So whenever, I always say, with your pitch, start and end with a story. So start with, and usually it's the customer. Now, it can also be about you, but you have to kind of also prove that, the market also needs this thing as well. But you can also tell what I call the founder story. So let's look at that now. One thing I should mention as well is that especially tech founders, but founders in general, tend to get really stuck in the weeds because you spend so much time on your product, right? Or your service. It's like your baby, your business, especially if you're doing operations and the technical stuff and everything. All you can think about are all these numbers related to your business, this big mysterious brand that you've created. So when you're talking to somebody who's never heard anything about it before, it's really difficult to remember that they're coming from it fresh. They have no idea all the ins and outs that you've been working on. They just need the heart of the matter. So stepping back from this is really important, and thinking about what actually moves people. Like if you're a tech entrepreneur, especially if you're a practitioner, and I was talking to a guy about this today, it's like, when he's pitching his customers, he never even uses jargon because he loves this cool little piece of code that he figured out, but nobody else cares really. What do people actually care about? What do we see here? These are what I call the big 5 pain points. And what do you think those are? Can you just write them in the chat if you see them? What do we have here?
Nothing yet. We're waiting. It takes a few seconds for people to hop from the video to the chat room.
Yeah.
What do we got? We've got any ideas, people, on what each of these pictures are for the 5 big pain points? Okay. Ooh.
Time, health, money, family, stress. Yeah.
Pain, relationship, time, health, money, family.
Kyle pretty much nailed it, but everybody else is pretty much getting it too. Yes. Now I'm going to just drill down a little bit on this idea of stress. Stress is a good one, but it's an overused word. Stress actually refers to external stressors. Anxiety and emotional pain is actually at the heart of it, because you can be in the presence of stressors and be fine. That's what Buddhist monks are able to do. That's what many people who do, the Shaolin monks who are able to like impale themselves on the spears. The human psyche and consciousness is perfectly capable of applying stressors. Or just think about things, you know, when you were younger that used to really piss you off, and now you see them and you kind of just go, oh, whatever. Or like somebody that, you know, you used to have a contentious relationship with, but now you've kind of understood them, and so it doesn't bother you so much anymore. So it's not stress. It's what I call emotional well-being. And to me, that is the big, big pain point. Now, I usually say it's great if you can cover 3 pain points in your solution. You know, if the 3 main problems that your customer is going through are related to things like time and money, and then, you know, emotional well-being. But what most entrepreneurs are really good at doing is calculating how much time and money things will save, but they're not really good at speaking to the emotional pain that people go through, that their customers go through. So looking at that and going, what is the cost to your family? What is the cost to your emotional well-being? What is the cost to your physical health of not having my solution? And what does it feel like to have these problems? You said we had a question from George?
Yeah. Which in general
I just saw that. Sorry.
is more effective in the story? A pain point that a founder experiences firsthand, or a pain point observed that the customer has observed?
Great question. The answer is, if it's true, a customer that a pain point that the founder has observed and can now demonstrate is shared by a sizable number of people. So it's not just that the founder said, I noticed that, you know, I could never find the episode of this obscure anime show that I watch online that nobody else watches. But so then I realized I had to start a website for this anime show that nobody watches. And now I can watch it anytime I want, but nobody else cares. Then you have no business, right? But if this person said, I noticed that every time I was shoveling snow, my back was hurting like crazy. It stopped me from going to work, playing with my kids, and I fell into a deep depression because my back hurt, and this was all from shoveling snow. So I invented the thing that gets stuck on. This was on Dragon's Den a few years back, and now it's sold in every Canadian Tire. It's that hook that kind of clips onto the handle, so you don't have to bend all the way down. It's ingenious. And I wish I'd had it when my back was really bad years ago. But so the founder had his own back pain, and then of course realized, this is not too difficult to find out through research, but that back pain is a rampant issue in our society. This is an elegant little solution, especially in Canada. Everybody needs to shovel snow. Boom, you have something. If you can talk about something that you've gone through and then noticed in other people as well, that's a very powerful story. But it can be just customers, but it can't be just the founder, because of course there needs to be a market for this. But so in general, but don't lie. So like I had somebody who's like, I actually don't care. We were doing like sports or something. And I was like, so tell me, did you love sports when you were a kid? He's like, no, I actually don't care. But he did see that there was a niche for it in the market. So we switched it around actually. And what we found, what he was passionate about was helping millennials get better with their finances. So we shifted the pitch. Instead of being like, sports is the most amazing thing in the world, it was, you can, through sports collectibles, you can actually make investments and then take control of your future financially. And we're like, okay, that is a more compelling pitch, and it's from the heart. Sandra has said, what if the pain point is ecosystem destruction and climate change? Well, that's a great one, because you have the macro and then you have the micro. The macro would be numbers to show the devastation of climate change, right? You know, numbers of natural disasters, you know, rising temperatures, but it's, you know, sometimes things like temperatures don't hit home really. It has to be the effects. So what would people care about, right? Some people just can't care about numbers. It's too abstract, right? But if the numbers had to do with number of people who have lost their homes due to the California wildfires, number of communities that have been wiped out because the fish moved away due to the salination of the oceans, things that people can relate to on a human level. So part of the problem with a lot of green tech or ag tech or these types of companies is they talk about climate change too much in the abstract. Now, we can all, or most of us at least, can feel the pain of seeing like a wildfire on TV, but it's not necessarily because we're afraid for the planet. People are kind of selfish by nature, and very few of us are able to empathize with the planet itself. But if you can speak to not only the pain to the planet, but to those of us living on it, how will it affect people? And you have to kind of play to people's selfishness a little bit when you're telling these stories. Why will this affect you, person listening? What's in it for you? Well, if you don't want your home to be buried under rising seawater, then do something about this. Invest in me, help take action, join my email letter, whatever it is. So by painting the ecosystem destruction and climate change with the abstract numbers, but also with the human element, what is it like for a mother to be holding her 2 young children and watch her house slide down a mudslide? What would that feel like? Can you get a picture of that mother? Can you speak to what her pain would be, even if you haven't experienced it yourself? And this is where the empathy comes in, right? And this is why I also say, for storytelling is read lots of fiction. Because, I mean, journalism is good for this too, but fiction is really good because the authors, you spend time in other people's minds and get to hear their innermost thoughts. And it's a great way to build up your empathy about how certain things would feel that you haven't been through. So the more you can read this stuff, the more you can speak to those pain and things like, family and physical health and loss of money and wasted time and emotional well-being. If you're speaking to these things, to the human beings, you have a lot more chance of getting people's attention.
Yeah, and I'd like to just add, I don't mean to sound callous here, so please take this in context of what we're trying to do, which is move an emotion. When the media talks about a plane crash where 100 people have died, you feel a certain way. But when the media shows that one shoe in the field in the wreckage, you feel completely different. You're attached to that one little girl or little boy, whoever owned that shoe. When you see that number, family, like you said, you see that individual, numbers are numbers, but little Susie here lost, her family or her life. That's
a very good point.
Yeah.
And that's why also, and that's a really good point, is specificity gets at emotion way better. So if you say 100,000 families lost their homes, that's awful, but it's hard to connect with that emotionally as a person. Okay, and the question is, how do you make a corporation emotional about ecosystems and climate change? Unfortunately, corporations historically have shown that they don't really give a shit about this topic. The only way that they do is if it hurts them in the pockets. So knowing your audience is also really good. If you can show them that they can make some money, or at least convince their audience that they are taking it seriously, which will not hurt their bottom line, then you can move them. Now, you could move an individual within a corporation if they have a social conscience and an environmental conscience to do the right thing and take action. But it's very hard to convince a board of stakeholders who really only care about the bottom line. So yeah, you have to show that it will save money. Otherwise, and a great way to do that is show people want action on climate change. That's what the market is deciding. If you take this action, not only will you save money because of the green stuff or whatever it is that you're doing, but people will see that you're taking action, and that will create greater brand loyalty. That will demonstrate your commitment to a sustainable future, makes you more of an attractive investment opportunity, all those sorts of things. So speak to a corporation's pockets.
Yeah, and
as much as they are legally, corporations are not actually people, even though they somehow have legal protections of a person.
And they
can we move on?
Yeah,
just because I'm a little behind, but and I want to give people a chance to volunteer and give me their pitch if they want. Although, sorry, let me just here we are. So here's an even simpler template that you can use, and it doesn't mean that this is how your whole pitch is going to look or your whole let's say talk. This is also a great intro. I've worked with a lot of my clients on making their intro this thing. When somebody says, hey, tell us about who you are and what you do, you can just use this as the intro, and you can also use it as the bigger pitch thing, or anytime you're telling your story about why you got into your business. Why is very compelling, right? So it kind of goes like this. I used to do this. So I'll use one of my clients. I used to work in the dairy industry, and I noticed how broken it was and how unsustainable the dairy industry is for the planet. I decided to fix it, and I founded my company, and I'll just call her company like Super Milk or something. Now we use this crop to make sustainable dairy alternatives for this type of market, and then one day we are going to commit to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN and reduce the dairy industry by this much by the year 2050. Join us. So that shows so much in a little intro, right? Now, basically the thing is, tell us what you used to do and then why you stopped and do this now, because that's a really compelling story. And especially for a lot of you, you're going to have some really great credibility and validity in what you used to do. So a lot of you will come from the corporate world or come from academia where you have a lot of great experience and qualifications. So if you just say, I used to be in academia and after 16 years, you know, working with these kind of people, I noticed there was this big problem. Then in a subtle way and in a story way, you've already gotten out your authority and your credibility on the subject. And now, you're also still telling a story. So this is a really, really good template. So I used to do this, then I noticed this thing, I decided to fix it. So I founded my company. Now we do this for these people. And one day we're going to do this for the world. And then we have join us, which is whatever your call to action is. That's a really great template, simple template to use whenever you're telling about how you got into your business. Customer facing story. So again, we're painting the status quo. And also if you notice, this is the 3-part thing as well. Status quo, I used to do this, call to adventure. Then I noticed this thing. So I decided to fix it. And then I did all this. And now we do this. So that's the tests, allies, and enemies. And one day we will do this for the world, the prize, right? And now this one, it follows the same 3-act structure. So we have to paint the ordinary world first. Your life is like this. And this part of it sucks, pain. Not just, oh, this could be better. No, it sucks. This part's awful. And we get it. You know how we know we get it? Because we've just painted this picture so clearly for you, so accurately. Once you accept this big idea, which is whatever my company's big idea is, life gets better in whatever the way your life is currently sucking. It takes time, but we're here to help you. If you want your life to be more awesome, click here. Again, this is how we help you. Ordinary World, Call to Adventure, which is our company. This is how we help you. That's the test, allies, and enemies, Act 2. And then if you want your life to be awesome in this way, Act 3, click here. And then so that's more of a future story rather than a current story. Yes, any questions on these two different like facing things? The first one is a founder story and the second one is the customer story. Any questions on these?
It always takes a minute for people to get to the keyboard when you ask.
Sure. Yeah.
None very clear.
Are these slides available after? Yes, I will be providing them in PDF form for anyone. Craig, were you able to find that TEDx thing on the hero's journey?
Yeah, I put it a link up here. What Makes a Hero by Matthew Winkler.
Yes, that's the one. What Makes a Hero. It's great. Thanks, Craig.
I'll put it in again.
Fantastic.
So it'll be
okay. Great. Very clear from Lynette and Kyle. Thank you guys so much. Okay, fantastic. So what I'd love to do now is we only have 10 minutes. So what we can do is one of two things. We can get some people giving me their pitch if you'd like, if anybody wants to kind of give me your pitch and I'll work with you on the story of it and also the delivery of it, or we can just take questions until 1 o'clock. So yeah, whatever people want to do. If we have a volunteer to pitch, that would be great. Or if you have a question and we'll just deal with them as they come.
So here's how we'll do that. Put your hand up in the chat room if you want to pitch. Otherwise, just put in the participant, put your hand up if you want to pitch. Otherwise, put your question in the chat room or the Q&A window. And Lynette, I know your hand is up. I don't know if you want to pitch because you're up from before. Sandra wants to pitch. I'm going to allow her to talk. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Fantastic. Yes, I'll do that.
All right.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you could share your video as well, Sandra, if you're comfortable with that, because it's always better if we can see your face. More empathy.
Did she? She seemed to put her hand down. Am I wrong?
Ooh. Sandra, yeah, I see the hand up, but
okay, there we go.
Oh, there she is. Hey, Sandra.
Hey there.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for jumping up.
Yeah, no problem.
So yeah, just tell me your pitch and either your founder story or your customer story, and however you would normally do it, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm going to take a little inspiration from what you said already. I've been a green building consultant for the last 10 years, and I've worked with many clients, including the Fogo Island Inn and Humber River Hospital. My projects have won over 70 awards. What I've realized is that the building materials that we're working with are not sustainable. We can't keep building buildings out of steel, concrete, and glass. And I am starting a new company with my other founders to accelerate the production of bio-based building materials. And they're going to be prefab, either zero carbon, or we're even hoping to sequester carbon with those materials. And I'm really excited about hearing from people that would be interested in investing in it, our website is at www.northindustries.ca.
Beautiful.
You should put that in the chat room, by the way, so people can see that.
Yeah,
Will do.
fantastic, Sandra. Well done.
Thank you.
Really strong. Yeah, really strong pitch. Obviously, there's a lot of elements there that are part of the traditional pitch. One thing I noticed, so do you know the capstone pitch format, Sandra? Have you ever followed that?
No, I haven't. I'm excited to learn
Yeah,
about
I think it was accidental then. Yeah, it's and I don't teach it because it's a little off of what I work with, and it's a little outdated, I find. So
Okay.
just to talk about first the positive things you did. Really nice. The buildings of concrete, steel, and glass. You emphasize them with the way that you said it, and then I could just the pictures were painted for me. I could just see those skylines full of buildings like this, which is really powerful. And so one thing I will say to everybody is that stories create emotion, but literally, actually vocal emphasis creates emotion. The words that you want people to see in their minds or remember, you can go through your script and bold them or underline them. And then when you say them, emphasize them with the speech setting. So steel, concrete, and glass. There's some great consonants and vowels in there. So use those words, and you did beautifully, which sprung them into my mind. Yeah, unsustainable. The way you said that was really nice. I felt the passion behind it. I felt you could even go further with that, but I really felt that you believed in what you're doing, which is so key. So the reason I bring up the capstone pitch is capstone is C, which is clarity. So this is our industry that we're in. And then the next one is A, authority. Why should you listen to me? I don't believe in that. I think you can demonstrate your authority through the story. So as I said before, did everybody notice that when she started talking about the future of buildings or whatever the sentence is unsustainable? Everybody kind of went, oh, okay, yeah, there's a problem here. What if you started with that, right?
Ooh, I love that.
Because the energy changes when you bring up stuff like that. It's something that is going to affect us. You winning the awards and you having these great clients is awesome. And that definitely belongs in the pitch somewhere, but maybe not even this one, but it belongs somewhere. But starting with the story, starting with the scary pain point, as you said, ecosystem destruction, climate change, put that out there first. You can introduce yourself. You can say, hi, I'm Sandra, and I'm the co-founder of, and sorry, what is it? The company name?
North Industries.
North Industries. So hi, I'm Sandra. I'm the founder of North Industries. The way we're building buildings is unsustainable. Boom. Everybody's like, oh shit. That's right. I've heard about that. You know, I've read that in the news. I feel that climate anxiety, you know. It just jumps in with the problem. And what I'd love to is, yeah, some kind of pain point. The concrete, steel, and glass is great. I don't want to lose that. But what is a reason that how is using different materials going to fix people's lives, right? Yes, we know climate change is bad, but if you can paint the specific picture with a problem for people. So who your customers are who are your main customers?
They're going to be contractors and
contractors.
Yeah.
So what are their problems with concrete, steel, and glass? Why is it better for them to switch to your materials?
Well, I'm hoping that it's going to be less expensive once I've worked out the full business plan.
Right.
Yeah. And easier and faster to put up.
Great. Okay. So start with the emotional one and then say, not only is it horrific for the environment, because you can kind of just get everybody with that one in general. We all live here, right? But the contractors building these outdated buildings are actually spending more money, time, and effort than they need to. Here I am to solve all of that with our patented whatever, right? So that's so much more of a compelling argument structured in that way, and especially highlighting your specific customers' problems that you're going to be solving.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Yes, no problem. Yes, great.
When you say unsustainable, a lot of people say that. So what I'd like to hear is a little bit about why, you know.
So sorry, Craig. Unfortunately, we have had another one from Lynette.
Yeah. You can read it. It's long. So you read it and I'll just say my piece.
Sure.
sorry, is the steel poisoning the air, poisoning the water, the concrete? Like, there is damage being done. I think you want to highlight that and why, why it's unsustainable. That's kind of it. Unsustainable. It is an emotional word, but you got to connect something to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Over to you, Will.
Great. So I just want to get to the other question. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks for hopping. Sorry, I didn't give it a ton of time at the end. So I hope that was good.
That was great.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just reading Lynette's. So Lynette she is putting herself on tape for a teaser. She's going to shoot it, submit it to market for sales and distribution. This is for original TV series. Anything in addition to the traditional film pitch you've offered earlier, vocal emphasis. Okay, great. Going to use the formula. Anything else I might add? I'm putting myself and my own story on tape. So what I would say, this is less about story and more about how to say it, Lynette. Use the speech settings as I had them before and really pay attention to them. So if we go back to this and go up to these speech settings, what I tend to find is that people generally, when they're nervous, are too soft, they're too fast, and they're too unclear in their clarity. So if you can, and they're not expressive enough. So with those ones, it's volume needs to be higher, your pace needs to be lower, your clarity needs to be higher, and your physical and facial expressiveness need to be more. So that means when you're on tape, you want to be using your hands more. You want your eyebrows to be engaged. You want to be smiling, and you want to be clearer, slower, and louder. Clearer, slower, louder, and more expressive. That's the general formula. I'm not sure if those are your issues as well, but 90% of my clients have those issues when they get on tape. They just go way too small because they're nervous. So show yourself more and show your personality more by just go a bit louder than you think, be a bit slower and clearer than you think, and be more expressive with your hands. Make sure your hands are coming up into your frame and your eyebrows are engaged. It just makes you look more passionate and more relatable. And in the end, it's all about relatability and likability. That's what everybody trades on really in this world. Unfortunately, it's not about ideas. It's about, yes. As an actor, this is why my producers have asked you to tape. Yes, fantastic. So you already have this stuff mostly down. But even as an actor myself, sometimes when I go into audition, I get nerves and I shrink. I shrink myself down. I'm trying to be cool and naturalistic, and I just end up being boring to watch. And I know this because I've seen myself on tape. So don't shrink yourself. Yeah, great. Any other questions before we finish off?
And Lynette, check the chat room. There's someone there who wants to connect with you. Johnson, 20-year contractor, wants to talk about your product.
I think that was for Sandra, but yes. I mean, yes. Everybody
sorry, it was for Sandra. Sorry,
connect.
You're right. Absolutely. Any other questions? Oh, there is one. I used to feel safe locking my bike. Oh, this is a pitch. But my locks have been cut twice and my bike stolen. I decided to fix it and found an alarm post. Now we provide an advanced security system that is hidden security in the bicycle seat post, and one day our bicycle security systems will be as common as car alarms.
Beautiful. So locks have been cut twice and bike stolen. That's great, but I want to go a level deeper for that. What does that feel like when you feel like your bike is not safe? What is the emotional toll of that? Do you start to question your family's safety in the neighborhood? Right? We felt unsafe. I didn't want my kids walking around, how much money, what's the frustration of getting your shit taken from you, right? So painting the emotional picture is like, everybody kind of knows, yeah, bikes getting stolen, that sucks. But if you can paint the picture in a way that everybody who's had their bike stolen can recognize, and you don't have to make this up. I'm just giving you examples, but I remember, when I grew up, we grew up on Queen Street, like just off Queen Street, near Parkdale, and we had our bikes stolen all the time. And my parents, they were so frustrated. They constantly, they didn't have a ton of money at the time. They constantly had to get, pay for new bikes or just not have a bike. And they were worried about us as kids, right? So I would say paint that emotional picture too. That's a very concise and beautiful founder story. So I love the detail of that. I love how simple the solution is, and the grand prize. Now we're going to be bicycle security systems will be as common as car alarms. I love that. So just make sure you paint that emotional picture in there. And
so
also,
Will,
I think proof as to how you know.
Are you out of time?
Yes. Sorry, I'm all done.
So where can people find you to find out more if they want to work with you? What are you up to?
Yes. So what I'm doing right now is I'm running a program called the Powerful Pitch Program, where we basically, the series that I'm doing right now, I'm sort of doing a condensed version to kind of put it out there, but we take people through a 6-month version of this. And we take founders and executives and stuff, basically business leaders, and they work in a group together, and we slowly build up the storytelling skills, the public speaking skills, the confidence, and the assets. And we film videos for you, and we help you put your ideas out there on the market, and work with social media managers and copywriters as well to kind of put the whole storytelling piece together. So what I'll do is I'll put a 15-minute phone consultation link in my Calendly into the chat. So you can just book something with me here if you're interested in the program, or if you just want to talk about your pitch and get some feedback. And then, yeah, feel free to book something there, and that's the best way to reach me. Otherwise, you can follow me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, just Will Greenblatt.
And your website?
And the website is outloudnow.com, but it's right now it's under a rejigging, so it's a little outdated. But you can definitely reach me through that.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Will. We'll make sure everyone gets you get the email so you can send the link out to everybody so they can follow up.
Yes, for sure. And I am starting something on LinkedIn, which is going to be free free pitch analysis, but only if you feel comfortable with me giving it to the world. So you can get in touch with me and ask about that as well.
Thanks again, Will. Thanks again for everybody, and join us tomorrow for Dr. Sean Wise.
Have a great day.